listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Sun Show.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Sun Solar Panel. Welcome into the show. We've got a bunch of live folks on here watching the show on our YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, I love you. This is great. If you're watching on YouTube later, I'm sorry you missed it live, but we are having a great time. You can listen to us anytime. I am here. My name is Dave King, and I am here as always with my podcasting partner, with my buddy Brandon Zona. How's it going, man?
Good. Another dominant win. The Suns keep rolling, and it's been a little chaotic for me lately with the Arizona Rattlers season starting up soon. So trying to juggle that, and keep up with the Suns as well. So the season just seems like a never-ending cycle of just dominance, and it's hard to put in words at this point.
Yeah, tell us real quick about your distractions outside of doing this weekly podcast. What else are you doing in life? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'm the manager of media relations for the Arizona Rattlers, and pretty much this week I just finished building out like the media guide, game notes, game program, ran their socials, all that stuff. So just a little bit of stuff to get done before the game. So yeah, it's been a little chaotic, but we're here now. Game 1, ready to go.
Wow. Game 1 is tonight for the Rattlers?
Yeah. Yep, at the Footprint Center.
Saturday night.
Yes, sir.
That is awesome. We also have today PLR from the Cave Show, the daily radio streaming radio show called the Cave Show. How's it going, PLR?
Dude, I'm depressed. My
Why are you wearing that hat?
I'm from Chicago, but that's not why I'm depressed. I knew the Bulls would get their ass kicked. That wasn't my bracket is busted, so I've been down ever since. I'm now a lifestyle writer. I don't do sports anymore. I do lifestyles. So appreciate you having a lifestyle director on.
All right, so we'll talk about, it's certainly not going to be fashion sense. So I don't know. It must be lifestyle, like Homes of the Rich and Famous, maybe, or something like that. It's not going to be about fashion. Look at that hat. You can't be wearing that, man. No, that's all right. This is a Suns Bulls podcast. I told PLR he would get a little bit of stage for his Bulls, so it's totally appropriate to wear that. I got to give you a hard time anyway. This is Saturday morning. The Suns just won their 4th straight game. They won they won all these games by an average of over 22 points per game, 4 straight. And this is without Chris Paul and without Cameron Johnson, who just happened to be Cameron Johnson. Did you guys know that because of that 38-point game in the one game, he is the Suns' second leading scorer after the All-Star break with Chris Paul out?
Did not.
23 points a game.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The progression from him and Mikal has been awesome offensively. One of these times we're going to break down soon before the playoffs. We're going to break down all the ways that the Suns are more diverse on offense this year than they were a year ago. Because when they went into the playoffs a year ago, they were a machine. And as Jay Crowder says, I thought we were really rolling last year. I thought we were really great last year. I thought we were ready for those playoffs last year, and they were. They made it all the way to the finals. But the Suns' offense actually dropped off more than any other team's offense in the playoffs. It was just still good enough to win games, and their defense was good enough to win games, and they knew how to close out. And that's how they got to the finals. But they did get a little bit, we'll just say two-dimensional in the playoffs, where it was Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and everyone else was just receiving from them. Deandre Ayton a year ago was limited on his offensive repertoire that he was allowed to and asked to play. Mikal Bridges was a catch-and-shoot guy. Cam Johnson, catch-and-shoot guy. All these guys were so much more limited then than they are now. So we'll go through that. We'll dedicate an episode to that, but we're not quite ready today. I want to recap what the Suns have done in the past week. Again, they've been without Chris Paul. They're all-world point guard. They've been out without Cameron Johnson. And for 2 of the games, they've been out
Jay Crowder as well, 2 or 3 of them with his thigh bruise. And yet they've beaten the Lakers, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Bulls. Granted, only one of those is a winning team this year by an average of over 22 points. And it's just amazing. So they at first they had last week we were talking about how when I was on with the Justin and Paul, we were talking about how the Suns had played 6 clutch games out of 8 since the All-Star break, where they were within 5 points in the fourth quarter either way, and they had basically split them. They were 3-3. This past week they said screw clutch time. Let's just blow people out. So, PLR, what's your main takeaway from this week on how the Suns have looked to you in a non-Chris Paul environment?
I just like the way they're closing the season. A lot of teams sometimes get to a point where they know they have a comfortable lead and they kind of take their foot off the gas. They're the exact opposite. They're closing. And I think that means a lot because you don't worry about your superstars when you close. You don't worry about Booker or Paul or those guys. Mm-hmm. You worry about your role players. And you got to keep them mentally engaged and treating every game like it's the game that they need to win. So I like the way Monty is coaching them to close out the season. Now, when you get down to game 1, 1, 2, 3 left, who knows? But right now, every game is a game to win, and we're closing this right way. What we in game 3 because game 7 playing the same way, and that's the one thing I take from this, that they're closing the season out.
How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I think this is just one of the deepest teams in the past decade. Like, it's just that deep. Doesn't matter who's out. They don't skip a beat, like, especially on their offensive output, just putting up the numbers they put up without Paul, without Cam Johnson, 2 crucial players in their rotation. And then last night, Crowder as well. So it doesn't matter who they plug in. Their system's just going to keep churning. And that's something that I think after the finals last year where, a couple guys went down and you kind of saw the depth wasn't there. So kudos to James Jones for making sure they're good to go if they're down a guy or two. But it's just ridiculous how this team just keeps on dominating without all these key players. It's just unheard of.
It is pretty crazy. And not only have they been down Chris Paul, as we said, and Cameron Johnson for a few games, the Suns have played 13 games since the All-Star break without Chris Paul, for sure. And then who else have they been missing? Devin Booker missed 4 of those. Cameron Johnson has missed 9 of those. 9. I can't believe that now. Cameron Payne has missed 3 of those. Jay Crowder has missed 2 of those. It's just unbelievable how the Suns have been able to fill in without those guys. That is 4 of the top 6 minutes per game players have missed at least a couple of games, up to the 9 that Cameron Johnson has missed now. And the Suns leading scorers, Devin Booker has stepped up. The folks in the chat have commented how good Devin Booker has been in Chris Paul's absence. He absolutely has. He's stepped up his game across the board. He is averaging 28 points a game since the All-Star break, on 52% field goal shooting, 41% on threes, 7.2 assists, 4.6 rebounds, and 2 steals per game and almost a block per game. The dude is incredible how well he has played. And then Deandre Ayton has truly stepped up. He's averaging almost 19 points a game in the 13 games. He's played all 13 with Chris Paul out. Almost 19 points per game, 9.2 rebounds, and he's shooting 67% from the field. It's just unbelievable how these guys have stepped up. Mikal Bridges, 16.6 points per game. Cameron Payne, 14.2. Jay Crowder, 13.1. Landry Shamet has come back alive. He's shooting 39% since the All-Star break on threes. And that's absolutely, 40% on threes, although only 39% from the field. Can the guy please kick out when he drives? I'd very much appreciate it if he'd just kick out on his head down drives. That'd be much better. It's pretty incredible how the Suns have played. They have won by no less than I think 16 points in the last week, and they're 4-0. That's pretty incredible. Any other comments about how they played this week before I move on to the next item?
Yeah, I have one thing. I just think this is a great sign for Suns fans in terms of like post Chris Paul, what this team could look like. Obviously, they're going to sign someone in his place. He has a pretty sizable contract, but once he's done, playing basketball, they're going to need some depth at the guard position. But overall, I think this is just a little sneak peek of what's to come, and it shows you that their big three, or I should say big four at this point, including Cam, they're going to keep playing high level basketball, winning basketball, and a lot of that's credit to Chris Paul for teaching them how to close out those games. So I think that's very important, but also just like a sneak peek of just what's to come for the future.
Two quick things that it showed me. One, that any writer, any national writer that takes Devin Booker out of the MVP talk, I don't really care to hear what they say. I've watched a lot of Philadelphia games over the last couple weeks, and I haven't seen and games that the Sixers are playing the Knicks or teams like that, they look like world beaters. But when it's time to step up, neither one of those guys are really stepping up the same way Booker has in the absence of Chris Paul. And so to me, it's really a shame that it's on display. Your eyes, your eyes aren't lying to you. You are seeing what he's doing. So I think this week makes idiots out of people that leave him out of the discussion more than anything. And then a quick point, when you were talking about points average, it reminded me, and I brought it up real quick, the 92-93 Suns that had 7 guys by the end of the season averaging double figure in points. So this team reminds me a lot of that when it comes to ball distribution and the balance, but they still had a superstar in Charles who averaged 25, just like Book is averaging, north of 25, but at the same time, everyone else feels comfortable to get their points and their shots up. So it reminds me a lot of that and the way the structure of scoring is.
With respect to health, I'm not going to actually say his name out loud because I don't want it to be like one of those jinxes. But there's one guy who hasn't missed a game all year. However, all other starters in the Suns starting lineup and their top 2 backups have missed at least 10 games this year. And it's just amazing that nobody, like it's not like you're just missing a few role players or some role players or 1 or 2 at a time or whatever. The Suns have missed Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, Deandre Ayton for 21 games. He's missed the most. Plus Cam Payne and Cam Johnson have missed weeks at a time. It's just incredible how this team has stepped up. What's even more impressive is that they are winning no matter who's out. They are now 9-4 without Paul. They're 8-3 without Booker. They're 18-3 without Ayton. They're 8-2 or 9-2 now without Jay Crowder. It's just crazy. And then there's only one situation where the Suns actually don't have a winning record, being without somebody. They were even without their coach, Monty Williams, with COVID for 4 games this year. They had a 2-2 record with Kevin Young as their interim head coach. Do you remember what stretch of the season that was, Zona?
I want to say it was January, February.
Late December, actually.
Late December, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Late December was right after the Christmas Day game when everybody got COVID from that Christmas game, it seemed
That's
like.
right, yeah.
Yeah, and they went 2-2, and the two losses were that buzzer beater to Memphis, where Ja Morant took about 18 steps in one dribble. And then they had the loss on
game, right?
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I was at that game at the Garden. I should have remembered that. Yeah, I was trying to block that memory out of my brain because it was so painful.
Yeah. Perplex, have we spoke about Dave's question yet? We're going to, and I wish I was more better. I wish I was more better at doing this because I would play you Monty's answer. We'll get to the question, Perplex, in just a minute because that is a section here. I just want to finish up. Who can the Suns not live without? They found they can live without Monty. for a little while because they have such a great coaching staff. They can win without any of their players. The only guy we don't know whether they can live without is a guy who's probably going to be first team all defense this year, who's Mikal Bridges. But you've got to think, if you can live without Chris Paul, if you can live without Devin Booker, if you can live without Deandre Ayton, you can live a little while without a Mikal Bridges because of a guy named Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig, in 2 starts, has made all 13 field goal attempts, including 5 threes. He's scored 35 points. He's grabbed 23 rebounds in 2 starts, filling in for Jay Crowder. That's your 4th or 5th wing. It's incredible. What have you guys seen from Torrey Craig? What do you like about Torrey Craig this week? We'll go with Brandon first.
Just his energy and confidence is up. He's always going to play hard. The shot wasn't falling when he first came over from Indiana, but he's one of those guys whenever his shot's on, he's going to let it fly. And sometimes even when you're kind of like, what is he doing shooting that? Like, oh, no. And then it goes in. You're just like, all right, I'll live with it. Like he did that in the playoffs a lot too. So to me, I think he's just high energy offensive rebounder that, gives them second chance points. And honestly, like that's something they need because on the glass, they don't have enough players that I think attack the ball. So just having that on both ends really helps. And it doesn't matter who they plug in. Like earlier this season, we saw Frank Kaminsky come in and dominate for a stretch. So this system's
31-point game. He couldn't miss a shot.
So this system's built to make players look better. They already have a great team. They're only looking better by playing with each other in this system. So I think Craig is just another example of that. And it's why I like the trade to bring him back here to the Valley.
PLR comments.
I like that Torrey Craig feels comfortable to play his game, and the Suns are comfortable letting him play his game because it works with their game. And I know that sounded like a lot of repetitiveness, but there's certain guys that have to change who they are to fit in. And I think he fits in with this team because of the way he plays. We always talk about guys that play egoless. That guy really plays with not a lot of ego. He knows where he is in the order, and it doesn't bug him. If he plays 8 minutes, he's going to give you what he gives you. If he plays 20 minutes, he's then going to give you 20 minutes of what he gives you. And there's never well, I should be playing over this guy or I should be doing this. He just plays his game. And I think it's cool to watch someone just be able to do that. And I think a lot of that comes from the culture that Monty has said. If you just play your game and do your job and do it well, you'll get rewarded in your minutes. It may not all come in one game, but there may be a game where you play 30 minutes and shine. And I just like the way he fits into that.
That's a great point. I feel the same way about Aaron Holiday too. I think both those guys are perfect fits in terms of adding to a roster that's already so dominant and not messing with the chemistry. So I think they did a great job of making sure you're keeping everyone happy, but also getting better and improving your depth. So I think just, players that play hard and have zero ego, that's just exactly what they're looking for here.
So I got a comment. I got a story about the Torrey Craig game. So again, I said he was he had not missed in 2 starts and not missed a shot in 2 starts filling in for Jay. So I've been covering the Suns for about 10 years now. I've been in almost every home game, post-game press conference. I don't travel with the team, but I've been in half the games a year, basically in post-game press conferences and pregame and all that. I've talked to every one of these coaches since 2011, 2012. And I've never been dressed down like I was last night when I asked a question of Monty Williams. I lost my I guess it's a professionalism for a second, I guess. In the post game, everybody was chatting, hooping it up. The Suns have won 4 in a row. Everything was great. So I made a joke that I asked Monty Williams, and I said, "Hey, Monty, with Torrey Craig not able to miss as a starter, how can you possibly take him out of the starting lineup when Jay Crowder gets healthy again?" That was my question. Monty looks at me. I wish I could share the video and play it for you guys. He looked at me and then he looked over at Cole Michelson, who's the head of the Suns PR media. So he's basically you for the Rattlers, Brandon. Mm-hmm. And he turned over, he looked at him. He's like, Cole, I need to get paid more money to answer questions like these. You either got to pay me a stipend or you got to make him pay a stipend.
That's incredible.
I'm going to answer a question like that. That's why am I here if I have to answer questions like this? But then he said it with a smile, and Monty has one of those sense of humors. You never know if it's actually coming out, and you don't always know he's joking. But everyone did get a good laugh out of that afterwards. And no, he wasn't actually mad at me, but he did. It was a stupid question. So stupid question, stupid answer. Then he went on to say, look, man, he just loves how he did answer my question. He loves how Torrey Craig stepped up. He loves how everyone has stepped up in their role when they've been asked to do something. They fit in. They do the right thing. And he did a great job. So yeah, so I currently it's out there in the ether that I'm going to have to pay $100 a question now. But no, it's all in good fun. It is a lot better. I'd much rather have that interaction than the one I had with Earl Watson about 6 years ago. So after a Jazz game, Earl Watson had to go into post-game press conferences about 150 times after losses. And he got surlier and surlier after every one. He just did not like doing media time, and answering questions after a loss was even worse. And there was a game where they had lost to the Jazz. The Suns had lost to the Jazz, and they had played a pretty, try-hard game, kind of like the Rockets doing try-hard games against the Suns this year, right? You got to feel good about your effort, even in a loss. And Joe Ingles had somehow managed to, he's such a good player at his prime, at least, had managed to score like 31 points and was the big difference for the Jazz. The Suns had done pretty well against Rudy and other players, but Joe Ingles had stepped up and made a big difference. And I actually made the mistake of asking Earl Watson. Again, I'm pointing out my worst 2 questions in 10 years, but I'm okay with that. I asked him, so Joe Ingles doesn't look like your average superstar, but he sure played like one tonight. And Earl Watson stopped, stared me down. He said, "What do you mean he doesn't look like a superstar?" And I was like, well, he doesn't jump. Those who know Joe Ingles, the face, Joe Ingles, he looks like some dude you would meet at a bar, and you wouldn't even know he's a basketball player except that he's 6'7". But I said, he doesn't jump as high as others. He doesn't run as fast as others, some of the, but he sure plays really well. And Earl Watson just wouldn't even answer my question. He just goes, I don't even understand your question. Why do you think he doesn't look like a superstar? He's in the NBA. He's playing great. He's a really good player. Next question. And he just wouldn't even answer. PLR, were you there that night? I can't remember.
I was there that night. I basically what you said was, how did you let a guy who looks like Norm from Home Alone torch you for 31?
I did not ask it like that.
That's pretty much what you said. That's not how you said it, but that's what you said. So,
but I didn't say it like that.
All right, we got to get both of these on video and just do a quick little breakdown.
That's really what you said to him.
In those days, the Suns were so bad and the technology was behind. I don't even think anyone has that on video. Those post-game things disappeared really quick.
Only 2 like dumb questions in 10 years is pretty impressive. That's a lot better than most of these media folks. So kudos.
Yeah, yes. No, I take it as a positive that Monty was okay with dressing me down in such a joking fashion, because I've been there for years. He's been here 3 years now. If it was some rando who he'd never seen before, he's gotten questions like that, like you said, Zona, mm-hmm. And he answers them professionally. So I'll take that as positive. Oh, Landon, we'll close out the stories with Landon Alverson. Thank you so much. Making me feel a little bit better. All I know is Dave and Brightside got me through the dark side of Suns fandom. Absolutely, man. We were here through the worst, and now we get to enjoy the best, even if it's at our own expense. So I'm okay with that. All right, I want to talk a little bit about one other player right now before we move on to another section. We're going to talk about Deandre Ayton. He matched up last night against a 4-time All-Star, Nikola Vucevic. Do you think if those two switched places, that Vooch would still be All-Star, would be considered All-Star caliber and be a better player than Ayton? If they switched places, they switched teams, who would be the better player if they switched teams? PLR, you go first.
See, that's a tough question because their games are so different. So I think they both would do well. I think Vooch anyone would benefit from playing with Chris Paul. So that's kind of a loaded question. I think the Bulls are a different team that you saw last night without Lonzo running point guard because he's good for Vooch as well. So I guess to be specific and answer the question, I think the Suns would be better offensively and worse defensively if they were to switch.
So the Suns are third in offense. You think they'd be second or first?
I think they would be because Vooch is a very gifted scorer. There's a lot of stuff he can do. He can get you from the three with ease, and he has a quick over-the-shoulder low post move, which is really nice. Now, I'm not taking away from Deandre Ayton's offensive abilities. I just think Vooch has a better long-range touch. He can stretch it a little bit more. But defensively, the Suns' rating will go down because you can get Vooch in a pick and roll and get him out there and dance with him, and he looks like he's, Peggy Fleming on skates. So that would be a downfall. So you would get a plus and minus either way. But
Norm from Home Alone on skates.
I know, huh? But that's not a switch I would ever do because I don't think the fit would be the same.
Zona.
Yeah, I think he kind of nailed it. The offense might get a little bit better, and just in terms of Vucevic playing with this supporting cast, everyone's, like I said earlier, everyone's going to look better in this system. So I think he would personally benefit from it, but overall the Suns wouldn't be any better or any more of a title contender with him. I think they need DeAndre's defense to get where they want to get, especially with guys like Jokic and now facing a guy like Cat maybe in the first round. And then heading to the finals, just looking far ahead, like guys like Embiid and Giannis, those guys you're going to need DeAndre to match up against. So I think, the Suns would much rather prefer DeAndre at this point, and that's not a knock on Vooch. I think he's a solid player, but just in terms of what the Suns need the most right now, I would say is just DeAndre's defensive presence, and the offense is starting to pick up a little bit too. After that rough game against the Knicks, he bounced back, which he typically does whenever he has a dud like that. One thing I'll give credit to him for is every time he's under Cody Hunt actually wrote this probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago for Zona Hoops. Anytime he scores under 10 points or grabs under 10 rebounds in one game and shoots less than 50%, the following game his numbers are off the charts. So he always bounces back from rough outings. So hopefully this continues into the playoffs and his confidence continues to grow. But yeah, I'm taking DA for the Suns pretty easily at this point.
In the 13 post All-Star games, Deandre Ayton is averaging, as I mentioned earlier, about 19 points and 9.9, just under 10 rebounds per game. In the last 8 games, that's up to 21 and 11 with 5 double-doubles in 8 games. So it got me thinking, and on Friday night against the Bulls, Ayton had 20 points and 12 rebounds in just 23 minutes. Halfway through the third quarter, he got his usual rest, and the Suns' lead was so big he never came back in. He's had a few games like that where he gets his double-double or near double-double by early third quarter, and it seems like, and then he may never come back in. So I think it's really interesting to see his progression. He's definitely gotten more aggressive offensively. He talked about it last night after the game. He said, oh, yeah, he's getting ready for the playoffs. He's getting focused for the playoffs. He's really excited about the fact that his offense, his game, the Suns actually looking for him in different situations is so much more advanced than a year ago. I mean, he may have always had the skills, like his turnarounds and his one dribble turnarounds. He had those at U of A. He just stopped doing them in the NBA because he talked about it. He goes, A, that wasn't my role for a little while, and B, the NBA defenses are so tight that they would, the guard would dig down, and he would go too fast into. He talked about this. he would go too fast into the defense on the catch, and the guard would still be there on the dig off the pass, that it would knock the ball away from him or disrupt him so to where he couldn't do a turnaround. Now he's calmer. He's waiting a beat or two after on the catch, waiting for the guard to have to commit back to. He does the fake pass at back out to force the guard to go back to his defender and give Ayton a little bit more space. And now he can get that turnaround without getting doubled and tripled on the dribble. And you guys have seen that. I've seen it this year, and you guys have seen it too. It seemed like a year ago, every time he put the ball down, there was 3 guys swiping down below his waist. And in this year, he's either going super fast with the ball high and not touching the ground, or if he's going to dribble, he waits a beat or two until the guard has to go back to the defender, the perimeter, and he gets his space to do his drive. Because I was always, we always wondered, God, why is it that these other big centers can get their dribbles in and do their turnarounds, but as soon as DA gets it below his chest, he's getting swarmed because he was going too fast. So you'll see point. DA now. Yeah, you'll see DA now. He's either going to go super fast with the ball high, or if he's going to dribble, he waits a beat or two until the guard gives him space. That's fun. It's fun to watch.
U of A, Deandre, that's the one reason I was so high on him, is because of the dribbling and just the aggressiveness. He let it fly from 3 too. He's playing out of position, and I think the defense was tough to evaluate because, he was a 4, which in college, like, you're guarding guys that are like 6'3", that look like Joe Ingles. So it's tough to really evaluate a player in that situation. But I think for the most part, just the confidence off the dribble, like you said, like whenever people say the game is really starting to slow down for him, I think that's a perfect example of just him waiting, knowing when to take those lanes, when not to. And that's going to happen with bigs in the NBA because they take so long to develop and kind of get caught up to the speed and strength of NBA players. And I think Deandre's not only got, the physicality down, but now I think just the mental side of the game too. So it's starting to come together for him. And he's only going to get more confident and show that he can do more than what he has in the past. And I think just go watch that Oregon game. I think it was at Oregon. It was on ESPN. There's a play where he took it the entire length of the court and dribbled and then just posterized as a guy, like full speed. That's like a Giannis type play. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, this guy is more than just an old school big.
Yeah, he even talked last night about when he gets the ball out on the perimeter, usually he's got the dribble handoff. Now he's hearing the defense calling out the dribble handoff to Book or to CP or whoever's going to be flying by him, Payne. And he's like, well, sometimes as I hear them calling it out before I've even made the pass, I'm just going to take it and drive. I got to do different things than what they expect because you got to keep the defense on their toes. And now he's hearing what the defense is calling out, and that'll be even more valuable in the playoffs because obviously it's the same defense for several games in a row. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. There is one stat I started looking because DA had his double by early third quarter, and I seem to recall a lot of games where DA in the Suns blowout, he'll have his double early and then he won't come back in because the Suns have such depth with JaVale, and then Bismack can play DA's mop up duty minutes in the last of the fourth quarter. So I did some looking, and I want to ask you guys. I want to ask the chatters. I don't know how I want to ask this in a way you guys can answer, because I know Brandon and PLR can see the answer already in the show notes. But what is the Suns' winning percentage this year when DA gets 10-plus rebounds in a game? So overall, their winning percentage is 80%, 81%. What's their winning percentage when DA gets 10-plus rebounds in a game? Chatters, go ahead and post your answers. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm going to wait a little bit for you to give this answer. And then also put in what you think their winning percentage is when he gets less than 10 rebounds. Landon Alverson puts 92% win percentage when he gets 10-plus rebounds. Blaze, 100%. All right. Iverson blogs, don't we only have 3 losses? I think you mean 3 losses when he gets under or over 10. Is that what you mean? Perplex, 96. We've all been how the way it is in chat rooms and blog comments and all that, if you don't do your research, you're going to go for gut feel. You're going to go on gut feel, and you're going to say, feels like every single time he gets 10 rebounds, we win. And every time he doesn't get 10 rebounds, we lose. Blah, blah, blah. It's all this, extremism. We all bent to extremism when we talk about things like this. And so you're seeing 90s and 80s and hundreds, things like that. Well, let me tell you what the actual stats are. When DA gets 10 plus rebounds in a game, wait a minute. Hold on here. I got to preface this, except I just froze. There we go. Sorry, guys, for the delay here.
Dang, stat me.
When DA gets 10 plus rebounds in a game, these Phoenix Suns are 25-1. Their only loss this year with DA getting 10 plus rebounds in a game was game 4 when he had his 21-21 game this year, his only 2020 game this year. Game 4, when they dropped to 1-3 on the season, and everybody was worried that the Suns had forgotten how to win games this year.
Was that the Harrison Barnes game?
Yeah, it was the Harrison Barnes game winner. Harrison Barnes caught it and made the 3 falling out of bounds to win the game. Exactly. 25-1. What do you think are the Suns' record when he gets under 10 rebounds? Only 13-10. 25-1, almost 100% win rate versus 13-10. It's a 50-50 shot if the Suns are going to win the game if he gets under 10 rebounds. Now, there are mitigating factors in that. 3 or 4 of those were recently when DA was put out on the perimeter for more defensive, playing away from the basket more, and he hadn't figured out how to sink back for rebounds after the shot was going up. He wasn't comfortable with the switching out and staying on the perimeter when Monty was doing that on purpose. So some of those games are on purpose, but the Suns are still losing them. Yeah, part of that was also them figuring out how to win without Chris Paul and also being without Cameron Payne in a couple of those games too. But having said all that, the stat is really clear. When DA gets 10 plus rebounds, they're going to win, period. And when he doesn't, it's a 50-50 shot.
I think some of it has to do with effort too. We were on this.
Oh yeah.
We talked about this. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago when he had one of those 6 rebound or 4 rebound performance games, and we talked about just his effort. And you have to be more of a alpha dog when you're going after rebounds. And I don't know if he listens to this show or he was on YouTube watching that morning, but ever since then, seriously, his rebounds have gone up. And I think obviously we weren't the only people noticing that was just a little bit more effort he had to put in and a want and a desire. But lately he's been playing like I think everyone wants him to play. The problem with I shouldn't say the problem, that's not fair. What the eyes tell you most is always what are my point totals. And the thing is, he doesn't have to average 30 points for this team to win. As long as he's keeping the boards clean, and even if you don't get a rebound, I think a lot of people miss this. Sometimes if you go up and you're tipping the ball away from the other defender to your teammate, that's still something you have to do. That's an effort play. And those are the things that I think he's doing more of lately as well.
Can we all just accept and kind of like just live with the fact that DA is going to check out every February or so mentally for a couple of weeks? Because he did it last year. He's done it this year. People start getting all frustrated and hemming and hawing and worrying. And then by March, April, he's back engaged. And then last year in the playoffs, he was just perfect. And this year he might be even better. He's been talking about ramping back up for the playoffs focus-wise and all that. I just think, whenever he goes through those lulls, we just need to accept that he's going to have a lull every year, and a lot of players do.
It seems like a lot of his little cold streaks or just lack of effort typically comes when it's fresh off like an injury. It's usually one of those minor injuries or coming back from COVID. I think it's just conditioning with him. It's always been conditioning and effort. And those are two things that he can control. So, I think he's had a kind of a weird year with like a couple minor injuries and bouncing back. And usually those first like 3 or 4 games, he's just not himself. And then he finally, once he hits his stride, that's when he really gets in a rhythm.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because he's been out 4 different times this year.
Exactly.
With minor things, and every time he needs some ramp up time.
Yeah, so hopefully he can stay healthy, no more minor injuries, and just kind of keep this thing rolling. Because last year there was a stretch, I think, for like close to 17 or 20 games towards the end of the season where he was just looking like an absolute beast, like a playoff version of Deandre in the regular season. So hopefully we can get that to kind of close out this season, that just carry that momentum into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, who is it that asked? Yeah, Landon Alverson, doesn't he average 10 plus rebounds too? Yeah. Well, he averages 9.9 this year. His whole career he's averaged 10 plus. In this season, he's had 26 games over 10 rebounds, 10 or more, and 23 games fewer than 10. So he is going to have to step up that ratio. And even if he's playing a lot more on the perimeter, and I don't want to take away from the idea that Monty Williams is asking DA to be away from the basket more than he has in prior years. He's having him switch. He's having him stay on the perimeter, and then they have to have somebody else crash the boards, the Suns do, to get rebounds, either offensive or defensive, because he's away from the rim a little bit more, definitely on the defensive end. Torrey Craig's been really filling that role the last 2 games. Like I said, 23 rebounds in the last 2 games, because DA has spent more time on the perimeter when the shot goes up than he's used to. And so, but DA is also learning how to dive back under the rim for the rebounds and not run full scale into another player. Although there was a foul called on DA last night in the Bulls game on Friday night when he was scrambling to go get a rebound, and Vucevic got there half a second earlier than he did. And even though DA had the position and had the rebound and all that, DA was called for the foul because Vucevic was in the space half second earlier. So because Vucevic started there, not because he moved there, because he doesn't move fast. But so that's the thing is DA has to figure out how to crash the boards from the perimeter without creating fouls because he's so big. That's really a good development, and that's something great for him to be practicing before the playoffs start. I fully expect a really engaged DA again in these playoffs. All right. That was our Suns Bulls recapping the week. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go through some true false questions. So we are already up to the 3rd quarter of the day, and I haven't even played the first 2 little drop in.
The 3rd quarter.
We are moving on to the 3rd quarter of the show, and this is a series of true false questions that I'm going to ask of Zona and PLR, and you guys in the chat should be giving us your answers as well. So since Chris Paul went down, I'm going to do a lead into my first true false. Since Chris Paul went down, the Suns are 2nd in the league in total assists. That's since the All-Star break. The Suns are 2nd in the league in total assists per game. Cameron Payne is averaging almost 10 assists per game. Devin Booker is back to more of his playmaking self, averaging 7.2 assists per game. Everyone else's assists have gone up. The Suns look like a well-oiled machine. They've won 4 straight by 20-plus points. So I'm going to give Chris Paul the Deandre Ayton treatment. True or false? Chris Paul should come off the bench when he returns to health. PLR, go.
Hey, Zona, will we get a stipend for answering that question?
I think
well, I already suggested Jay Crowder should come off the bench. So why not?
My answer would be the same as Monty's. Just last night, you got to pay me more for something like that. Answer that.
No.
But wait a minute, his replacement is putting up the same numbers. So isn't his replacement just as good on a much lesser deal? Cameron Payne only makes $6 million a year. Chris Paul makes $40 million a year.
That's what every NFL fan says when their backup quarterback comes in. No, there's a reason why the backup is the backup. You know what? I think I think Dave's got to take us to Applebee's for that question. What do you think?
Applebee's?
Yeah.
Who the hell? I haven't been to Applebee's
I'm
in
thinking
about 20
Applebee's
years.
with the fellas, as Book would say.
I did ask the question actually a little bit better. This was not my best night. Last night, Friday night, when Booker came out and he was talking about it, what I wanted to do is give him props for winning without Chris Paul, because there were a lot of skeptics. When Chris Paul first went down, guys like Kendrick Perkins and other dudes like that said, whoa, hey, the Suns are going to struggle to win without Chris Paul because they're all about Chris Paul. They've only been winners since Chris Paul came. And they were ignoring the fact that Devin Booker is a winner as well. He's 12-0 when before that, when Chris Paul was down. And so I was trying to give Devin Booker some props. And Devin Booker wasn't having any of it. He's like, no, we need Chris Paul. So just like you guys. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that one out there to get a little bit of a laugh. Yeah, Chris Paul going to get his grandpa to beat up Dave. Oh, man.
Someone's got to clip that and send it to just tag Chris Paul in it, just so he uses it as motivation.
All right, second question, a little bit more realistic, but it's a real question. And one of our chatters asked this question earlier in the show. I already had it down as a true false for later in the show, so I didn't address it. Brandon, Ish Wainwright, true or false? Ish Wainwright will make the 15-man roster, playoff roster, over Elf. Now, to set the stage here, Ish Wainwright's only on a two-way contract. That means he cannot be eligible for the playoffs. Elfrid Payton is currently the 15th man on the roster. Would Ish Wainwright make the 15-man roster over Elf? Zona.
I'm going to say they both make it, and Frank Kaminsky does not. I think at this point, Frank's I know that they're saying he's going to have some, he's had some recovery, he's doing better, all that stuff, but that injury, I don't know, they've just been too quiet on it. I feel like they're going to need the depth too, so if Frank's not ready to go, maybe he'll pull a Nader where he just kind of gets thrown in after not playing for 3 months into the middle of the Western Conference Finals, but I think there's a chance, Frank could be the odd man out if he's not ready to go, because you need bodies in the playoffs. And so I'm going to go with that little side answer.
That's a really great point, because we've been, obviously, Dario's been out all year. Frank's been out since his Frank Nadeau period last fall. And that's a really good point. So it's not that Elfrid Payton would lose his job. And it actually makes me feel better, because you still need that emergency playmaker in case all hell breaks loose. Yeah, that's a great point, Brandon. PLR, what do you think? Is Ish going to make the 15-man roster?
I'll agree with what Brandon said. I didn't think of it like that. So before I was thinking of the answer of the question directly, and I would go with Elf over Wainwright. If it just came down to those two, I think they have enough bodies up front. But point guard with Chris Paul, I got to think of a way to phrase it so I don't sound like Dave in the press conference. You have to be careful with this help. So as many backups as you can have at that position, I think it would help. Because if the Suns are saying a playoff blowout game, you can get him out early, and depending on the game or who you're matched up with, I think that's when you determine if you're going with Elfrid Payton, or you're going with Cam, or who you're going with. So to answer the question specifically, I would go with Elf, but I like Brandon's answer better.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect answer, Brandon, is that Frank Kaminsky's contract is already guaranteed for the year. He's not going to lose any money. They can buy him sideline passes. They can give him passes to the games and stuff like that. He's great on the sidelines, but so is Ish, and Ish can play in a pinch. If there's foul trouble, if there's injuries, whatever it is, I think even if he can't make shots on a consistent basis, I do think they're going to find a way to get Ish on that playoff roster. So I like your answer. Dario also could be. Now, Dario won't be released because he's got a contract for next year, but Frank definitely could be released without losing a dime and still be re-signed this summer. All right, next true or false. Ife Lundberg, the Suns signed a guy out of CSKA Moscow, I'm not sure, Moscow last week to their other two-way contract, which means he is not eligible for playoffs. However, they signed him to a two-way contract to come out because he had left the Russian team during during that war, the Russian-Ukraine war, and he has yet to join the team. He's having visa issues, which a lot of guys get when they're first over from overseas and all that, when they're not Native Americans. I mean, naturalized, whatever it is, when they're not regular Americans. I guess the term is. I had a brain fart. But Ife Lundberg, they're hoping he will join the team in the next 2 weeks. There's only 3 weeks left in the season. So my question to you is, true or false? Ife Lundberg plays in a game for the Suns this year. PLR, you're first.
False. Honestly, there's no need. If we're really being honest, that's where we've wrapped. Let's say he makes it and he gets over his visa issues. We're wrapped up. We're running everybody that has a uniform that fits and a name out for a game. So I'm gonna say false on that.
Brandon.
I'm going to go true. I think he's going to play the very last game of the season against the Kings. And it's going to be one of those Archie Goodwin, Alec Peters type memorable performances.
Each one more.
Yeah, that just it doesn't matter. But, he goes off on that last game because, both rosters look like G League teams at that point. So I'm going to go true, even though he has a visa issue and he might not suit up. He might not even make it to Phoenix. Who knows? But yeah, I'm going to go false on that, or true on that. Sorry.
You're going to go true. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was talking to one of the Suns media relations people last night, and it was funny. He was like talking about the visa issues, and they're really hopeful that Ife is coming over. Because at first I was thinking, gosh, if he's not coming over, why would you sign him to a two-way contract? He can't even be in playoffs, all that. But apparently he really does want to join the team. The Suns really want him to join the team on that two-way this year because he's already got his money from playing over in Russia. What's funny, this guy Bryce Marcy said, he's like, Ife is a bigger name in Russia than Chris Paul and Devin Booker are in America. That's how, even though he's not a huge superstar guy over in Russia, he's very well loved, very hard worker. He's Danish, I think it is, but still he is loved where he's from, and the Suns are going to love him, and the fans are going to love him when he comes over. So we're hoping that he gets into Phoenix, plays a little bit, gets into conditioning, and yeah, I think you're right, Brandon. And PLR, he's going to play in that last game. He's going to have an Archie Goodwin game. Archie Goodwin had 29 points in his final game of his rookie year. And then you've got Alec Peters had 29, I think exactly, in the final game against Dallas a few years ago. And then just last year, Etuan Moore hadn't played all year. He scores 21 points and makes a game-winning 3 in the final game of the year. Now the Suns win their last game. So I would expect if Ife is on the team, he will be suited up for that game. That would be fun to close out a fun year watching that guy take the court. That'd be great. Okay. Last true false question. This one's a little bit more about playoff rotations. And we're going to start with PLR. PLR, true or false? Landry Shamet loses playoff minutes to Aaron Holiday.
I'm going to say that's a to be determined. I think.
No, you can't do that. It's got to be true or false.
I'm going to say true, just because I'm worried about Landry getting his stroke consistent, and that's kind of been a problem of his the whole year. We know he can shoot. It's just he's been inconsistent, and there are times, honestly, I was watching the game when they were on the road, and he caught a pass, and I'm like, shoot, and he, for whatever reason, just froze. And I think it's a confidence issue with him right now. Whereas there is not a Holiday brother in the league that doesn't have confidence. So I think that there is a very good chance. Plus, Holiday plays better defense. He's a little bit more physical. I like the way he plays on the other side of the court. So there's a good chance that could happen.
Brandon.
I'm going to go false. I don't think either of them, in a perfect world, I don't think either of those guys are playing in the playoffs, to be honest. I think it's going to be a 9-man rotation. I think the three guard rotation they have with Paul, Payne, and Booker is good enough for them. And if they do need that spark, then I could see them going to those guys for couple short stretches like throughout the game, but I'm going to go false. I don't think, knock on wood, hopefully everyone's healthy and those guys don't play consistent minutes. But if it comes down to like if there's a blowout or if they kind of need a different look, then I could see Holiday taking Shamet's spot, but I think it's really just going to depend on matchups at that point.
Didn't we say the same thing? I just led off with TBD. Didn't we say the exact same thing?
See, I said false because they're both not going to play.
But he didn't actually say to be determined. He wasn't going to answer the question. You can't just
get creative with your TBD.
I love the way Brandon did. He's like, I'm not going to do that same crap because he'll get the answer the question. Answer the question.
You got to at least do it like Monty did. He gave me crap, but then he still answered the question. All right, I'm going to say losing total minutes. So, yes, it's going to be game dependent. Yes, it's going to be matchup dependent. My thing is that Landry Shamet and Aaron Holiday play about the same minutes a game since Aaron Holiday has joined the team. And who is going to end up playing more minutes in the playoffs than the other is just the question I'm trying to ask. So Landry Shamet, since the All-Star game, has played 24.8 minutes a game. But when Chris Paul and Devin Booker were healthy, it was more like 18 or 20, and Aaron Holiday's been playing 16. So will Aaron Holiday, with his effort, with his shooting, with his playmaking, get minutes over Landry Shamet? I'm actually going to predict yes. I think Shamet really works hard, really tries hard, does his very best. But Aaron Holiday seems to make more eye-popping plays. He'll track you down in transition and block your shot or get the steal. He gets his steals. He plays with effort and spirit that you really, really need in the playoffs. So I think Aaron Holiday is going to end up playing more minutes than Landry Shamet in the playoffs.
And I have a quick comparison for that too. I think it's not perfect, but role-wise, like Javon Carter and Langston Galloway, it's kind of like a similar version of that. It's like Shamet as Galloway and Holiday as Carter. Those guys didn't have a huge impact. I think both of the guys on this year's team are a little bit better and more playable in the playoffs, but I think it's just going to be similar to that. Those guys' role where it's very limited, if anything, in the playoffs, which is probably a good thing.
Yep. So we'll see. What's great is that all of these guys are just so playable, and they're proving it throughout this entire season. It doesn't matter. The Suns are going to be well off no matter what. The part that frustrates me about rotations is people looking at a game and they said, Monty should have done this instead of that. Well, you only know a guy isn't going to perform in his minutes until after he's performed poorly. So you can't know in advance that he's going to play poorly in his minutes. So it could be that Landry Shamet, Monty's counting on Landry Shamet's shooting to help them more than Aaron Holiday's hustle. It could be. And it could be that Landry doesn't lose his minutes, whether he plays well or not. My guess is Landry's been shooting 40% on threes since the All-Star break. He's getting back to his form there. I just think that when it comes down to crunch time, it comes down to really tight minutes. I'd rather see Aaron Holiday than Landry out there is all. So I guess I'm just speaking from my own heart, not Monty Williams. Okay, so thank you. That was the true false question. Now we're going to be out of here in about 3 minutes. We are going to spend a couple of minutes only on previewing this next week.
The fourth quarter.
Coming up this week, we've got the Suns are on the road all 3 games. They're at the Kings tomorrow, Sunday. They're at the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are 10 games over 500 or more right now, maybe 11, and fighting for that 6th seed in the playoffs, the Timberwolves. And then you're at the Nuggets, who are in that same range with the Wolves fighting for that 6th seed. So 2 winning teams this coming week. You got the Kings first, and then the Wolves and the Nuggets. PLR, what's your prediction for the week, and what's your things to watch? What's your hot take?
I think they go 2-1. I think the Wolves get them, not because the Wolves are better. I just like the way the Wolves are playing right now. There's a difference when you're being chased and you kind of have a comfort zone. And I'm not saying the Suns are playing in a comfort zone, but Minnesota is still trying to improve their chemistry and improve how they're playing basketball. And they got that irritating ass Patrick Beverly getting a good sum of minutes and just irritating the hell out of people right now. Cat's playing great. D'Angelo's playing great. So I think the Suns go 2-1. A lot of people would think the Nuggets. We all know Nicole is a beast to deal with, but I just don't like the way their guards are playing right now. You don't know what you're going to get game in and game out, and the Suns are just a flat out better team. And they're a better team than all three teams. Don't get me wrong. I just like the way the Wolves are playing ball right now.
So you're saying 2-1?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I think the difference is that I think they're going to drop that Nuggets game potentially just because it's the second of a back-to-back on the road in Denver. And, that could be a game where maybe the Suns rest some guys too, some key players just late in the season, second of back-to-back. Like, I'm not sure how much Monty wants to, have guys playing 40-plus minutes on back-to-back, stuff like that. So I could see that Denver game being kind of a trap game, if you will. But expectation-wise, they should go 3-0. But, there's always weird stuff that happens on these little road trips.
All right, I'm going to say 3-0 too. I said 4-0 this past week, and I was rewarded with the Suns kicking ass. They won the games by an average of 22 points. And I really think that they are on a roll right now. They fully believe in themselves. Of course, they want Chris Paul back, but they're also proving every game that they can play well in his absence. And it's not to show up Chris Paul or anything like that. I'm not suggesting anything along that line. I'm just saying that they're feeling themselves right now. The Suns are playing with a reason, which is helpful, with a purpose, which is helpful right now when you have a 9-game lead in the West with only 11 games to go. Let me say that again. They have a 9-game lead in the West with only 11 games to go. It would be really easy for all these guys to mentally check out. The problem with mentally checking out is if you play half speed, you're more likely to get hurt. You're more likely to do some stupid things. Playing full speed keeps you focused and sharp. And the Suns now have a reason to be playing full speed is because Chris Paul's out, because Cam Johnson's out, because they're dealing with a little bit of injuries. They're taking guys out of the lineups to rest them one full rest at a time, one minor injury at a time, and letting the other guys focus on winning the game. And that's really good because they're all really still sharp. So I think they're going to go 3-0 this week. The Suns, their magic number to secure the top seed in the playoffs is only 3. What that magic number means is they only need some combination of their own wins and Memphis's losses. Memphis and Golden State are tied at 9 games back. Memphis and Golden State both have to lose. If they lose 1 or 2, anytime they lose, that reduces the magic number. Anytime the Suns win, that reduces the magic number. I think the Suns are just going to take destiny in their own hands. They're going to go 3-0 this week just to close out and guarantee that they get that top seed. That'll put them at 60-14 on the year and give them 8 more games to only need 3 wins to set a franchise record. Because their franchise record is 62 wins. They're going to guaranteed they're going for 63 plus wins this year. So I think they're going to go 3-0, and that's going to, no matter what Memphis and Golden State do, that's what's going to get the Suns a guaranteed top seed in the West by the next time we are on this podcast.
As soon as they clinch it, I'm gonna clip that Kendrick Perkins take of him saying that with Chris Paul out, the Suns are going to lose a 1 seed. We could start the show off with that.
Yeah, no kidding. We should, huh? He thought they couldn't win without Chris Paul. He thought they were going to fall all the way down. Yeah, none of that has happened. The Suns have a bigger lead now than when Chris Paul went down.
I thought they were going to win 64 games all year. To be honest,
well, there you go.
I think that's the number that I called them getting to.
I put down 63 on my my annual Zone of Hoops article where I just go and ask everyone. I need to get you on that one next year, PLR. But yeah, there's a lot of people that already, their predictions fell short. So pretty crazy.
All right, guys. We're looking forward to a 3-0 week. Hopefully, and the Suns will, by the next time we talk on this live on YouTube next Saturday, the Suns will have a guaranteed the sewn up top seed for the playoffs. Everybody, you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. PLR, tell us where we can find you.
every day, the Cave Show, 1 o'clock, ready to roll. We're doing the bracket talk about this week. So just get through the first 5 minutes of me crying, and you can find it by going to the sportscave.com. The easiest way, go to sportscave.com, caves with a K, and hit the listen live button.
Brandon, tell us where we can find you.
At Zona Hoops _ on Twitter, brightsideofthesun.com and zonahoops.com.
All right. And at a Rattlers game.
True. Yeah. Check out the Rattlers.
Yep. All right. I'm Dave King. You can find me at Dave King NBA on Twitter. You can find my writing on brightsideofthesun.com. And we love you all. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.